CORRUPT. Every government agency, cesspools of waste, fraud, and abuse. Time to let the big doge loose. Faceless Marxist bureaucrats, public servants put in America last, working in stealth with dirty hands, squandering wealth in faraway lands. Wanna see what the left's been doing to give the country they hate a royal screwing? Funneling hard-earned taxpayer dough into hidden agendas like NGOs. Secret grants, big black holes. Whoever it was running the show, it sure wasn't Joe. It sure wasn't Joe. Nation took it up the rectum, cause Sleepy Joe was on the dementia spectrum. Thank the Lord we didn't re-elect him. Where, oh, where did our tax dollars go? Here comes Doge, open your kimono. Who let the Doge out? Trump. Arrogance in full regalia, billions worldwide to sever genitalia. Transgender comic book in Peru, Ivy League schools isolating Jews. The Doge out. Trump. Who's millions to research transgender mice? Billions for DEI, zilch for ICE. Men and girls restrooms, what a lot of nerve. There used to be a word for that, and if I recall, it's perv. If you wanna win in women's sports, best to be hung like a horse. With all the insanity that abounds, the time has come to release the hounds. Who let the Doge out? Trump. Who let the Doge out? Trump. Who let the Doge out? Trump.
Watching the world burn, watching the world burn. September 27th, 2025. Let's get into it. All right, and I want to hit the video studio again up front because I'm trying to educate you and help you out in whatever fashion I can. First, let's hit the gold price. I think we're going to see $3,800 gold here pretty quick. I noticed silver's bumping up next to $46 an ounce. Now, you know, I'm waiting for a big stock market crash because people are wondering, you know, when do you sell? When do you sell? You know, or when do you buy more? When do you buy more? Well, now is not the time to be buying, I can tell you that. Because once we get a nice crash in the stock market, in order to cover those margins, a lot of the big fish are going to have to sell their silver and gold to cover those margins on a stock market crash. Now, do I know the stock market's going to crash? Well, eventually, what goes up must come down. So yeah, so that would be a good time to buy. Right now, is it a good time to sell? Well, once again, I'll just give you my theory. You got to run the silver to gold ratio, okay? And I've told you many times, once that silver ratio is about 40 to 1, or, you know, gold, one ounce of gold buys 40 ounces of silver. That's when I plan to convert some of my silver into real estate and possibly convert some of it into gold. So that's where we're at. Going to get that out of the way. So let's get on the video studio and what I've learned. I was up all night last night, so hence I've got a late start today for the hike. I bought that $50 USB drive from Computer Geeks. By the way, they did give me good technical support, but the advice they gave was incorrect. But at least they answered the phone. So sometimes you get what you pay for, because I didn't understand what the hell was going on, because when I tried to boot off of the USB drive that they gave me, it would come up to a certain point and the computer would cut off. I was like, what the hell is going on? I've never seen anything like this. I tried it again. So then they said, well, go into Windows Home, because the guy that worked on the computer installed Windows 11 Home, which I didn't want. I wanted Windows 11 Pro. I've told you, because I want to do virtualization. Anyway, so he says, go in Home and then run the setup from there, and you can install it that way. Well, once I ran it from there, it gave me the error, TPM is not up to date, and Windows 11 can't be installed because it requires TPM 2.0. That's, I think it's Trust Protected Service or something like that. Anyway, I couldn't understand it. I was like, well, damn, man. I understand this computer's about 2 or 3 years old, but you know, if Windows 11 won't install on this beast of a server, you know, I guess I'll just have to go to Linux. But I wasn't ready to give up. So I was grokking everything, and I looked at Grok, and what Grok came up with was go into the BIOS and set the TPM settings. And so I went in the BIOS. There was nowhere to set the trusted settings. And I'm like, well, what the hell kind of BIOS is this? I can't believe that there's no TPM in here. And finally, I looked at the date on the BIOS, and it surprises me that the guy that worked on the computer for me, he didn't flash the BIOS. You would think if you put it into this is what I'm telling you, you got to do your own work, okay? I would have thought that the first thing that the computer shop would do would be to flash the BIOS, and they didn't. So man, it took me a long time. I had to download the new BIOS, and I brought that because it was 2021 was the date on the BIOS, and the latest release on that BIOS was September of 2025. So you could see how out of date that BIOS software was. So I flashed the BIOS, and I noticed immediately that the boot up was different. And I was like, oh, this is good. And boom, it booted right up, no problem. And but then I still couldn't install off of that USB drive that they gave me. So what I had to do was, of course, you can go up, you download, if you're gonna install Windows 11 as a fresh install, go to Windows, I know, go to Microsoft's website and download the latest ISO version of Windows 11. Because I've noticed, I had an old ISO, and I noticed when I downloaded the ISO for Windows 11, it was different, which tells you that they are updating their ISO files at Microsoft. So you want to get the latest ISO, and on that USB drive that I bought for 50 bucks off of Amazon, that wasn't the latest version of Windows 11. And of course, Ventoy. Ventoy is the multi-boot software that I use. So anyway, I got it booted up into Windows 11. You can see why I was up all night. but I'm telling you all this so that you can flash your computers up to the latest Windows 11 version, perhaps by just updating your BIOS and downloading the software and putting it on a multi-boot USB drive using Ventoy. But all right, so now I booted it up, and for whatever reason, it wouldn't let me partition all the drives in the installation software. But one thing I did have to do, because the guy, when he gave me the computer, he had partitioned all the drives. So I had to delete all those partitions. And I tried it various ways of trying to get Windows 11. It took me 4 tries. And by the way, each time you have to enter the key. So man, I was getting worried that Microsoft was gonna, because that's what I paid for with that 50 bucks from Amazon, was I needed the license key for Windows 11 Pro. So I had to enter that key 4 times. And I was awful worried that Microsoft was gonna say, you know, count those installations and say, you know, you can't use this key anymore. Luckily, they didn't. So the 4th time was the charm. I had to, and by the way, I could only partition 1 disk, okay? Leave the other disks, you know, and choose your fastest disk. I chose, of course, the 2 terabyte M2 drive, which is twice as fast as an SSD to install the operating system on. And it went on flawlessly. I mean, well, you know, I don't know about you, Windows 11 takes a long time to install. So the next huge question for me was whether or not I could get DaVinci Resolve Studio and the key there to work on the new server, because I wasn't sure, because you can only run DaVinci Resolve Studio on 2 computers. And if you didn't know, that license costs about $400. So that would have been a $400, and you know, my worry was that, of course, they're going to honor it. You can call up DaVinci Resolve anytime. They give excellent technical support. But anyway, so the key, worked just fine, eventually resolved. So we're going to make this video using the new server. So that's why I wanted to make a video today. So we're going to get into it here. Let's just get on to the news. By the way, the latest theory that I've seen on the Charlie Kirk assassination, and you know what? This one makes a lot more sense to me, was that the mic, you got a DJ mic. If you don't know what an external mic is, this is one right here. That's what I wear around my neck. This is a different name brand. But they're saying that maybe there was explosives in that DJ mic, and if you look at his shirt, when it's supposedly the bullet hit him, his shirt rocks out and up, okay? And so if that mic blew up on his chest, that would explain a hell of a lot. I mean, it's right around his neck. You know, you can see if this mic blew up, it'd be right about here, and that's where it looks like the explosion happened. So that's the theory I'm going with. I think that there was an explosive charge, you know, just like when the Israelis did the pagers. Remember that story? When they rigged all the pagers and blew them up all over Lebanon? You know, the problem with that was indiscriminate. Yeah, they probably got a few Hezbollah, but they also killed a lot of kids, a lot of women, a lot of children. Anybody near those explosive devices was either injured or killed. And you don't know who had those pagers. It could have been a kid that had the pager or whatever. You know what? Hey, Christian nationalists and Zionists, they loved every minute of it because those are just Arabs that were killed. Doesn't matter. So the other thing, we're going to do a reading here. Colonel McGregor, if you didn't know, Trump put out the most ridiculous post I've ever seen, but I can't believe that he would believe that Ukraine is going to win back all their territory and crush the Russians. So we don't know what's going on. Supposedly there's 400 generals that are going to be meeting together here in the next couple of days. You know, so everybody's saying something's going on, something's going on. Who knows? You know, I know one thing. I'm glad I'm not in the military, because if they send U.S. troops to Ukraine to fight the Russians, they're not going to survive too long on that battlefield. I don't think so. And by the way, Colonel McGregor keeps putting out a number of 10,000 Polish troops that have died fighting in Ukraine. Now, I don't know how in the hell he gets that number. He's the only person I've heard report on the fact that Polish troops have been or were in Ukraine and that have died. Now, you would think if 10,000 soldiers came back in body bags to Poland, that somewhere in the news that the people of Poland would be a little bit pissed off, you know, because I don't think they granted their government or would go along with their government sending Polish troops into Ukraine. I don't know. It's a wild number. But let's get into a couple of things. So yeah, I gave you my Charlie Kirk theory. There's another guy. Okay, by the way, if you want to watch Redacted, there's a guy that says there was about 4 drones they were operating. Now, we've all wondered why we didn't get any video footage, you know, around the time of the shooting. And he's saying, and this guy's, he's you know, worked on some major films like The Amazing Spider-Man. He's a video expert, okay? And he's got all the equipment. And he got a video, by the way. The guy had it backed up with a USB cord, which, you know, somebody said, well, you're old-fashioned, you hardwired. Like, I bought a hardwired keyboard and mouse for the new server. I didn't want to go wireless, okay? And so people have been giving me a hard time. Well, guess what? Because he was hardwired into his video equipment, he got video that nobody else got. Because what this guy says is that there was electronic warfare going on. And so what they were able to do was blank out all of the cell phones in the area from being able to take video during that time. Because there is an exploit for the iPhone. Now, I didn't hear anything about the you know, like the Samsung or the Android phones, but I don't know. It's a theory that, and a guy he showed you the footage that he got from this guy, because he got the RAW file. If you don't understand videography, you don't understand the difference between a RAW file and a regular file. RAW file has a hell of a lot more data, much more difficult to work with, but you can see a freaking insect in a RAW file, you know, whereas with just a regular video, you know, you just get the video. All right, let's get into some reading here. I thought this was a great post by Roseanne Barr. Evil has no shame, and like a vampire, it has no self-reflection. Once you are gripped by a demon, you can't get out because your mind is controlled. Only belief in God can save you. I'm praying for all the woke under satanic mind control to wake up. You cannot free them as peers. No amount of fact or embarrassment will convince them that they are wrong. Pray for them to awaken, to free themselves of evil. That's all we can really do. It's in God's hands now. You know what? The reason why I wanted to read that to you, if you've got a Democrat neighbor, okay, they're in the grip of Satan. All right, anybody that's for child trafficking. And by the way, we've got some new evidence that the Democrats were involved in child trafficking now. And I see if I can find the video. I think it was Pam Bondi or one of the people in the Trump administration came out and said, you know, we've got the scoop on the Democrats trafficking children into the United States. So if you got a neighbor and they're trafficking kids and they're a Democrat, why are you hanging around them, man? Why do you want to even talk to them? I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But anyway, I guess, you know, they think child trafficking's okay. Oh, the scoop is also bouncing around on X that Pam Bondi may actually indict someone. I'll believe it when I see it. And Comey is high on the list. At least that's what's bouncing around X right now. I didn't think she'd ever indict anybody because she's a deep state operative, but you never know. You never know. Maybe that's going to be it. The other thing bouncing around X was my last video. I was telling you about Google that admitted that they censored a lot of conservatives on YouTube at the behest of the Biden administration, and they said they're not, you know, they're going to let all the creators back on. Well, I think they have let them back on, but their accounts are demonetized. So what's the point of being a creator if you can't make no money? So maybe that's how Google's going to get around it. They're going to say, okay, we're not going to censor them. We're just not going to pay them anything either. So, and I don't even know why any creators are on YouTube. I mean, you definitely got to be on Rumble, or at least be on, like I am. I'm on both, okay? I am that cybersecurity guy, or the Florida, let me rephrase that. The Florida Man News Network, FloridaMNN on YouTube, and I am The Burn on Rumble, okay? The Burn, all one word, on Rumble. Okay, and you can check me there. Of course, the best place to find me is on X. Sometimes my X posts don't come out right away because I put the video up on YouTube first, and then I watch the video, make sure I didn't screw something up, and then I upload it to Rumble. And by that time, usually it's time to go to sleep, and it might be the next day or the day after, but when I finally get to post it on X, because on X, the description means everything, whereas on YouTube and Rumble, the video means everything. So it's easy to put the video up and not have much of a description. Yeah, and also, you know, a lot of times I'm late on YouTube and Rumble making the thumbnail, you know. So sometimes if you watch it right away, you're going like, well, the thumbnail didn't tell me anything about the video. That's because I hadn't made it yet. You know, I only got so damn much time. All right, we're going to get into the reading of Colonel McGregor. Let me see if there's anything else on here. Oh, this was Liz Churchill. I couldn't believe this. So they knew the COVID vaccine could kill you 10 years ago. mRNA is not a vaccine, but an experimental genetic modification platform, and the spike protein is a toxin which causes very serious health damage when they've known this since 2015. Boy, I tell you, the truth bombs that keep coming out are astounding, aren't they? You know, all the stuff around Charlie Kirk's murder. I mean, you know, let's go back to Crooks for just 1 second when he shot Trump. Look at how quickly they covered that up. They tore those bleachers down. That was a crime scene. They, if there was a body on that roof, some people are saying now he wasn't even on the roof, but I don't believe that. Because, you know, they washed the blood right off that roof so nobody could conduct an independent investigation. They cremated the body within like, what, 2 days? You know, that's a huge, I mean, if you don't think that's a cover-up, and I'm surprised Trump, now that he's in office, hasn't said something about the cover-up that took place of his own murder. Maybe the deep state's threatening him. Let's see. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. And I might have put it in the last video. This is Benny Johnson. President Trump highlights that people who avoid vaccines and certain medications show little or no autism. There are certain groups of people who take no vaccines or pills and have no autism. Does that tell you something? Going hard on Big Pharma. Now, if you didn't know, the Amish are not having very many autistic children. Maybe none, as far as I know. And that's because the Amish way of life, you know, they don't use Big Pharma drugs or take vaccines and all of that stuff. Well, I'm sure some of them do. That's why probably some of them do have autism. But for the most part, you know, they live the Amish lifestyle, which I think is a good way to live. I kind of wish that I had been born Amish in a certain kind of way. I think that would have been a fun way to grow up, you know, growing your own food and doing all, you know, working on the farm, and, you know, the camaraderie that they have, that everybody gets together and sings and, you know, has revivals, and, you know, it's pretty cool. Okay. All right, we'll get the reading out of the way, and that'll be it for today's video. I'm sorry I didn't have much for you other than I wanted to talk about that server. And also I wanted to use the new software, or the new server, to make a video. And that's what this is really all about. Hope you enjoyed it. Let's get the reading out of the way here in just one second. All right, my daylight is going fast, so let's get the reading portion of the video out of the way. So here's the first one. I thought this is the Patriot Blonde, or Patriotic Blonde. And now we are on the brink of World War III. I'm a 3-time Trump voter and a constitutional conservative. I worked his presidential campaign. I now regret all of the above. As from Epstein to Israel, he has completely betrayed us all. God help us, we've been played. And I wanted to read that to you because a lot of people are posting the same thing on X. And I don't know, I'm about 50-50 on Trump at this point. His support for the genocide in Israel, or in Gaza. And by the way, Trump supposedly came out and said he wasn't going to allow Israel to occupy the West Bank. Well, that's already done. they gathered up all the Palestinians in the West Bank and put them in concentration camps. So Israel's already moved into the West Bank, so I don't know what the hell. So that's what I keep saying. I wonder if Trump's getting senile or something. We're going to continue to get on Trump here. This is what I was talking about earlier in the video. It says, breaking in a bombshell revelation, Attorney General Pam Bondi revealed a DOJ investigation proving the Biden administration aided child sex traffickers, allowing $7 million to a trafficker who profited a staggering $18 million from smuggling children into the United States. And we got that video.
Just this week, Joint Task Force Alpha took 4 major enforcement actions. Right here in Tampa, we unsealed the indictment charging 12 defendants operating a massive, right here in Tampa, a massive illegal smuggling ring. The defendants engaged in a conspiracy to bring illegal aliens from Cuba to the U.S. for profit. They coached their clients, including children, who came to airports alone, came to our country alone, were put on planes for connecting flights, lied to Border Patrol agents due to coaching, and law enforcement. They charged up to $40,000 per victim. They used Zelle to transfer over $7 million over the course of this scheme, and I believe had profits, cash, of over $18 million.
All right, this is Matt Gaetz, and I couldn't agree more. You know, a lot of people, oh, yeah, we got to keep supporting Ukraine. Let's send troops, let's send money, let's send weapons. Matt Gaetz put it best. America borrowing money from China to give it to Israel doesn't make us stronger. All right, and this is the last thing I'll read to you because I got to get back. It's definitely going to get dark. I got my headlamp in my pocket, which by the way, we got to get this cloud formation on the video. I'll get that in just a minute. That is beautiful. Wait till you see it, man. All right, so this is Douglas McGregor, another long post by him, but I tell you what, I don't know how he finds time to write all this stuff. Maybe he's got a team of people that work for him. War debt and delusion. In his latest post to Truth Social, President Trump claims that with more dollars and euros and missiles, Ukraine could still regain all of its lost territory. President Trump's statement is a mixture of sentiment and self-delusion, not strategy. Few wars in modern times have been wrapped in so many illusions as this one. The number of Ukrainian soldiers killed in action, KIA, exceeds 1.7 million. Now, the numbers that I've got is it's over 2 million at this point, okay? But McGregor's being conservative here, and he's just saying 1.7 million. And that, oh, by the way, I wanted to advertise the next video. We're going to do a big, another expose on the genocide in Gaza. And I've been using Grok to do some research, and we're going to talk about all of that. And I'm going to get some numbers for you that dispute what the official numbers are. And I'm going to source it and give it to you. But that's good. That video is going to take a lot of work, and it's certainly nowhere near ready to go prime time. But I'm just telling you a future video. I like to advertise for myself. All right, let's back to the post here. The ongoing mobilization of Ukrainian men in their late 50s and early 60s is not evidence for resilience, but of exhaustion. Without constant flows of dollars and euros, the Ukrainian state and society would collapse in a few days. Very soon, the globalist ruling class in Washington, London, Paris, and Berlin will raise the question, who lost Ukraine, as though it was ever theirs to lose? However, this time, Americans will ask how Washington insiders, lobbyists, and sprawling military-industrial congressional complex persuaded President Trump to imitate President Biden to prolong and even widen the war in Ukraine instead of ending it. Contrary to popular belief in the West, Russia was never a wobbling power held together by propaganda. Measured in purchasing power, the war has helped Russia to become the world's fourth largest economy. Now, I don't know, I haven't read the rest of the post, but they've also got the world's largest military now. Last numbers I heard, I think there's 700,000 troops that are in Ukraine. Now, that doesn't take in the whole of Russia or Belarus or everywhere else. I would say that I don't have the exact numbers. It's between 1 million and 2 million right now that are in the military. When you compare that to the United States, what are we at? About 400,000, I think, in the Army or something like that. So you can, man, I tell you what, Russia's they're strong. Not only is the Russian economy thriving, sanctions meant to break its economy have instead pushed global trade eastward and cemented Moscow's ties with Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. Instead of a paper tiger, Russia looks more like an impregnable fortress. Meanwhile, de-dollarization is advancing rapidly. For the first time in 30 years, foreign central bank gold reserves exceed U.S. treasuries. The dollar's share of global reserves has already dropped from 72% in 2000 to about 58% in 2024, according to the International Monetary Fund. In economic terms, Americans are on the losing side of this conflict. The final situation in Britain, France, and Germany is equally precarious, with spending levels and deficit trajectories that are unsustainable. For the globalist leaders in Europe, who opened their country's borders in 2015 to hostile invasion and deindustrialized their countries to follow Washington into the war against Russia, the cost is even higher. Whoop, daggone it, I lost my... That's one problem with reading from the phone. Anyway, I wanted to point out that, well, okay, we already talked about gold and silver. Let's just keep going. For the globalist leaders, okay, the rendezvous with unrest and bankruptcy will come soon, long before Washington reaches the same destination. Unfortunately, Trump's words confirm the truth that the war in Ukraine really is Washington's and NATO's war against Russia. The stark truth makes it much harder for Moscow to compromise with the West. More important, the truth justifies wider Russian military mobilization and deepening ties with Beijing, New Delhi, and Tehran. Europe's combination of acute military weakness and financial emergency makes the breakdown of Washington's Atlantic alliance inescapable. When he says Atlantic alliance, he's talking about NATO, of course. So that was just an excellent post by Douglas McGregor. Let's see if we got any more. Oh, I wanted to read Dmitry Medvedev. You know, I'm a huge fan of his. I don't see it. Dag nabbit. We'll get it on the way back. Let's get this cloud formation on the video, and we'll get some more talk on the way back. Isn't that beautiful? That's what I'm looking at. Let's get over here just a little bit. That is one cool picture, isn't it? Let me just hold steady. Wow, that is so cool. Dang nabbit, I had it right in front of me. We could have read it right there. It was actually GD Geopolitics that posted this, but it's just quoting Dmitry Medvedev. Let's just get the view of the clouds on the video. I'll just read this to you. Trump's statements and the circus happening at the UN. Something strange is going on in New York. The Bandera clown is high on coke and trembling. The Pole has SNUS, sonus, stuffed in his mouth. And Trump, once again, he slipped into an alternate reality, reciting a fresh set of global incantations about Russia's weakness. After meeting with the clowns from Kiev and Paris, he posted a flamboyant message. Final victory for Kiev, a return to old borders, Russia collapsing, war economy, gas lines, and the image of a paper tiger. In that reality, everything is different. Kiev is winning, Russia is torn to pieces, and Banderas Ukraine is thriving on its own resources. In that same fantasy, Trump's predecessors, Obama and Biden, live happily ever after. I told you I love Dmitry. But Trump is not like them, no doubt. He'll be back. He always comes back. In a few days, he'll probably propose that the green pianists sign a capitulation. Or maybe fly to Mars with his pardoned Musk. Or come up with something else historic to claim a Nobel Peace Prize. The key, after all, is to keep drastically changing your position on every major issue. That's what makes successful governance through social media. And then they say, thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, wasn't that fantastic? I mean, Dmitry Medvedev, I don't know, you love him or hate him, man, I don't care. I think the guy's got one hell of a great sense of humor. And the posts that he puts up trolling Trump are just fantastic. I had to read that one to you. If I get something else on the way back, we'll add to the video. All right, my light is fading fast. I'm still in the crunchy leaves. I love when people leave a comment, you know, I couldn't hear you for all the crunch under your feet. So anyway, 2 more pieces of news. I thought this was interesting. I guess Jimmy Kimmel came back on, Disney put him back on the air. And man, I tell you what, huge. His show got 6 million views, from what I understand, and 25 million hits on X. So that's a hell of a comeback right there, isn't it? Yeah, I've always been against doxing people for their speech. You know, we did that whole video on free speech. I think it was the last video. So, you know, I've said my piece on free speech and how important it is. So, yeah, I don't like Kimmel. I don't really watch him, but, you know, I didn't want him to get fired just because he made a bad comment on TV. Yeah, of course, his ratings were way down, and that's the real reason that he had to go away. The other piece of news I wanted to talk about, I forgot, was the ICE shooting that just took place. I can't remember where it was. Wasn't it in Texas, I think? Anyway, evidently, I didn't know this, there are apps that track where the ICE agents are. Now, I imagine it works just like Waze. If you haven't used Waze, you need to put it on your smartphone. And the way Waze does is they'll track where the police officers are. So if you roll through a speed trap, you can punch into Waze and say, hey, there's a cop car here. Or, you know, Waze will also report car on the shoulder or, you know, anything like that. So imagine this ICE app works the same way as Waze does. And so people on X made a good recommendation. And that was, you know, install the app, which I won't do, but, you know, you could, and enter false information so that people using the ICE app to track where the ICE agents are, the Democrats, okay, you can send them off on wild goose chases and corrupt the app so that it's not very useful to, like, you know, people like that shooter who, by the way, he shot him. I don't know if you know the story, but he shot himself and killed himself. So one less lunatic that we have to worry about. But I can't remember. What did he kill? 1 or 2 people? I don't know. And I don't think any of them were ICE agents. So anyway, you don't want anybody to get shot and killed. So I had to get that out of the way before the lighting goes. Let's get a look over here real quick. Isn't that beautiful? By the way, I'm deep, deep, deep in the forest. And there's not a, you know, one of the things I do worry about coming out here like this is if I was to have a heart attack or something, nobody'd ever find me, because I imagine a bear would just drag me off, because there's nobody here. There's nobody within 10 miles of where, well, maybe less than that, 5 miles of where I am right now in the forest, because there wasn't even a single car in the parking lot. So, you know, when I come out here, and that's another thing that I like is, you know, if you're gonna walk around your neighborhood or whatever, you get other people's faces on the video, or you get signs like, you know, let's just say a subway sign on the video, you know, and if you said something in the video that people don't agree with, or they want to sue you for, you know, the business, you know, they can come after you and say, look, you know, you're gonna have to take your video down because you put our sign in your video, and we don't appreciate that. So we don't want our sign associated with you in any way, shape, or fashion. Because, you know, I'm shadow banned on YouTube. They don't like that cybersecurity guy very much. I can tell you that right now. And of course, the other conservatives that got booted off, they're not even, like I told you, they're not even monetized now. Alrighty, that might be the last clip we get, because it's going to be dark here. I got to get the headlamp out of my pocket. I hope it's working. I didn't test it before I came out. If not, the flashlight on the phone works pretty good. The problem with the flashlight on the phone is you can't see well enough to, because what happens is up here in this deep grass, the snakes were rolling through that grass, and at night you can't see them, you know, unless you got a headlamp on. You know, that flashlight on the phone is good for just staying on the path, but it's no good for seeing down in the grass and seeing what you might be stepping on. You know, nothing like a pissed off snake, you know. Even if it was just a black racer, you know, they'll when they bite, man, it hurts. I'm gonna tell you, you don't want a pissed off snake around you. By the way, I forgot about the story. You know, one time I accidentally peed on a rattlesnake. I don't know if you knew that. I was out doing a hike, and I walked over to the trees, and that was before I broke my neck and everything worked well. And anyway, so I was sitting there peeing, and I'm looking, and there's a snake about 2 feet from me, and he's all hunched up, you know, looking like he's ready to bite the shit out of me. And I slowly backed away. I can't believe that snake didn't bite me. I mean, what the hell? I mean, he peed right on his head. You know, so that's what a pissed off snake looks like, I can tell you that. We have just enough light left. I had to make a correction. It wasn't a rattlesnake that I peed on. I know that you'd say, well, at least you would have heard the rattle. No, it was a moccasin. I forgot. So anyway, I had to type a snake wrong. Just wanted to, I always try to correct myself whenever I make a mistake. All right, whew. Got to hurry back. Yeah, we have just enough light. I don't know about you. I can't stand those stupid Amber Alerts saying that a kid's missing. Like, you know, 99.999% of the time, nobody knows what the kids look like. I mean, sending out those stupid messages. But one thing I just noticed, see, I use this phone right here, this Samsung Galaxy S25, as just a camera. I don't have hardly any apps installed on it, maybe X, you know, because when I'm connected to Wi-Fi, there are some things you can do on Wi-Fi, like watch Netflix or whatever, if you want to use your phone for that. But what's interesting is those Amber Alerts are hitting this phone. And by the way, it's not connected to any cell phone service. You know, it's not on Patriot Mobile or Google Fi or any of that. So that tells you any smartphone, you know, because I do call myself that cybersecurity guy. So anytime you have a smartphone, whether it's on a network or not, they're tracking you, man. They know where you are, which is very interesting, because I mean, obviously out here in the forest, I'm not connected to Wi-Fi either. So the fact that they can send an Amber Alert to a phone that's neither on a cell phone service nor connected to Wi-Fi, very interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. I wanted to show you what I'm seeing with the headlamp. Luckily, it's working pretty good. So you can see, you know, if there's a snake in there, it's not the best headlamp in the world. You know, I've had brighter. The thing I wanted to just talk about for 2 seconds is, God dang, man, here we are, almost October, and the mosquitoes are all over me, man. I'm gonna have mosquito bites all over my neck in my ears, everything. I got the floppy hat on, but unfortunately, the hat that covers the back of my neck is, well, it got too sweaty and dirty, and so I've got it in the dirty clothes until I do my next load of laundry. So anyway, that's where we are. Oh man, I'm telling you, arachnophobia. I don't know if you could see, there's a spider right there, and they're all in the grass. And I'm gonna tell you what, every now and then when I get home after one, look at all the spiders in there. There must be a dozen of them. But anyway, they get up on this grass and they'll get on you and bite the hell out of you. And man, I'm gonna tell you what, when you get to taking your socks off and everything, those welts take a long time to heal. See, there's a spider there, spider there. Oh man, I tell you, that's why when you're blissfully ignorant, life is good. But see, there's one right here. I don't know if you can see him. Hot damn, and the mosquitoes are on me. Oh God. I don't know what that is right there. Can you see the eyes? What the hell is that? What the hell is that, man? I think what the hell was that? Was that a bear? Holy shit. That was big. Man, I'm scared going forward, but I can't go back. That was scary, man. That was scary. Did you see those eyes? I don't think that was a deer, man. I don't think that was a deer. I'm looking for it. Well, I just hope it's as scared of me as I am of it. I don't have a walking stick with me. I got no way to defend myself out here today. Oh man, that's scary. That's got me scared. Let's see if we can get this on the video. I don't know. Let me get it up above there. Yeah, Comey's been charged, man. Pam Bondi actually charged somebody. Can you believe it? Hopefully we're getting that moon behind the cloud. God dang, I'm getting eaten alive. Everything's itching right now. Okay, if you don't think I'm lying to you about the spiders, look at that sucker. Look at that sucker. That's what's all out here. I mean, by the hundreds. Oh God, I gotta get out of here. Oh yeah, man, I was seeing these lights through the trees. Those beady eyes have got me freaked out. I'm almost in the home stretch here. But anyway, I wanted to comment on Comey just 2 seconds. Okay, yeah, so we got one guy under indictment. Why can't we get Fauci? I don't understand it. Rand Paul has all the evidence on Fauci in the universe, and yet they can't indict Fauci. Get Fauci.